Humanity has been interested in sex since the dawn of time. Porn is just an expression of that. It's 35,000 years ago, images of naked women and men and, you know, phallic objects.
We're herd creatures, we're social creatures, and I think before we became like very nuclear and private, we would have seen more of each other having sex. And I think that's a really natural response to like watching someone else having sex, and for that to increase your libido. And especially for me, I found watching other women masturbate taught me more about my own body and my own sexuality.
We really don't have very many opportunities to see people express themselves, connect, work together, work through things, try things out sexually. And people are so curious about sex. They're hungry for examples to just say, how do people do this? What does it look like? And so it's a medium unlike any other, because I think that we have other mediums that talk about sex. We even have mediums that depict sex, but they do so in a really indirect way. And so in some ways, porn gets rid of the kind of nuance and says, we're going to show you what's actually happening here. We're not using sex as a way to sell something else, like perfume or a lifestyle or whatever. We're actually making sex and using it to sell sex. And I think that that's really important. I think it's important for sex education. I think it's important for people's sexual imaginations, that people get ideas from porn. People use porn to help communicate with their partners. Sometimes they feel like they don't have a language to describe something they want to do, but they can put on a porn movie and say, okay, you see this? I want to do that to you. I want you to do that to me. I want to do this with you.
Porn presents this really, or the conversation around porn in queer and feminist circles and communities often presents this, at least intersection and sometimes apparent conflict between a culture of sex positivity and a culture of consent.
Beginning in the 1970s, a rift started to form between feminists who felt that porn inherently dehumanized and objectified women, and those who valued a woman's right to choose what to do with her body, and felt that any kind of sexual censorship was the same in nature as the patriarchal oppression women already faced.
It's where I think a lot of people can feel unempowered as a performer when you show up on set and the director doesn't want you to be yourself. Either you're a queer person on a straight film and they don't want you to be queer, or they want you to have this, or they want you to perform in a specific way that's not authentic to your own desires.
And I think that just comes again to a diversity of representations and not repressing the conversation. That we can sort of pull apart that porn does not have to be part of a culture of silence and a rape culture, but misrepresentation and narrow representation push us into that. And I'm thinking about other people watching that, I can start to feel really unsafe in my culture.
Because the only way to keep making porn is to make money off of it. The more you market your porn down to the smallest genre or appeal to the broadest audiences possible, the more successful you're going to be. That's why you'll see things so specific, like matters of race or size, be over-marketed with derogatory language, and then everything else is catering to what the producers think will attract the most people. Very thin, overly feminine, cisgender, possibly like modified body, like fake breasts, white skin, all of those things. So the formula of that mainstream way of either being very specific or catering to the lowest common denominator by taking like what is the most obviously attractive, acceptable form of standard beauty to sell. It leaves no room for ethical treatment of anybody who isn't a part of that thin, blonde, white, cisgendered regime.
So up until pretty recently, all the porn that I used to see advertised looked really, really degrading and really kind of violent, and I was almost kind of freaked out to look at it, and it really wasn't about women or representing women's desires. It was all about submission and dominance, and that was kind of the only theme.
I think porn has a fairly major effect on young people and how they view sexuality. I think that if without the proper sex education to go with it, viewing porn can cause problems because people may assume that that's how people really have sex, and unfortunately it's not the case. Porn is made for the purpose of viewing, and as such a lot of it takes into account it has separate camera angles, it has separate acts, a lot of it is done purely for the benefit of the viewer rather than the participants. So if you think that that is how porn is going to happen, then you're not going to do it right.
Yeah, because when I want had experience of sex and sex entertainment and visual sexual entertainment to not be something that feels traumatic, and I know that it has been for some women I know.
Heard folks say that what matters to them, and I think this resonates with me, is there both choice at every step of the process? So for the actors, the producers, and the people watching it, and also is there pleasure at every step of the process?
I think porn can contribute positively to a peaceful culture if it's done the right way. I think that porn, when you present partners as equal, when you get rid of all of the sexist tropes that are common in porn, if you present sex as a way to connect with other people, as a way to experience joy and happiness, and to explore your own self and your body, that's going to help everybody in the long term. If you can present sex in a good way and in a non-sexist way, in a beautiful way that is inclusive and ethical and beautiful and joyful, then people are going to get good things out of that, and then they're going to take that out into the wider world and probably have a much better time of it. I think if sex is seen in a positive way, and sexuality is such a big part of who we are in our culture, then things, yes, peace is going to come a lot quicker if we can all just get on. And obviously being able to get on is something that happens sexually as well as any other way. So yeah, I think good porn is a key to peace.
I was like, there has to be something out there that's different and more about women. And I discovered the Feminist Porn Awards. And, well, first I discovered pornthegirls.com. And then I was so amazed that there was something out there that was specifically targeted at women, and particularly that the way it was filmed was more from a female perspective, and what they focused on, everything about it seemed totally different. And that there was an emphasis on showing men instead of showing women the way there is in normal porn, and on like filming men. And that was really incredible to see. And I thought, I don't hate porn at all. It's just that none of the porn that I've seen up until this point has been representative of things that I want to see or things that resonate with me.
I think it is empowering to create porn, especially porn from a female perspective, porn that's different, that approaches it in a feminist way, because I feel like I'm changing the world. It makes me feel good about myself and what I'm doing, and I think that I'm helping other women to embrace their sexuality and to understand that porn doesn't have to be this dreadful thing. It can actually be really interesting. It can help them with their sex lives, and it can make them feel good about their bodies and themselves.